Hello VC. So, lately I've been thinking about how much at odds sometimes I can feel with some of the stuff I see all the time in the VC videos. One of the major things that I lack, that I miss in many videos, is the lack of EPs being featured. EPs are a huge part of my musical culture. 12-inch EPs, non-album tracks. Everyone is all about the albums. I mean, in techno and hip hop, it's probably a little bit different, and I'm into these things as well. But if you go to more regular like pop, rock, it's either singles or albums. Well, it isn't. So I thought I'd just pick up 5 EPs from the 90s. You know, the time that most people say nothing happened on vinyl during the 90s. Yeah, well. So, yeah, 5 great EPs from the 90s, no fillers. I could have drawn much more, but I went with 5. And starting with this, Him, Chill and Pill, on Southern Records. Him is the band that Douglas Sharin did right after he left Codeine. I mean, he did lots of stuff, and I think he had also this band called Directions in Music, which was pretty cool, post-rock, for lack of better terms. As you can hear, Him is almost like a dub project. His drumming is totally like inspired by Jamaican dub. So this EP, it's got 3 tracks. That's kind of the rule for me. An EP is at least 3 tracks, no album tracks. Otherwise it's a single, a maxi single. Anyways, this is my favorite track of the EP, but all 3 are really cool. Black Shadow in the Year of the Rat. That's what we're listening to right now. Second Star Green is as good. And this came out in 1996. Him, not to be confused with this horrible new metal band called Him. This predates by quite a margin. I could have played anything from this, but yeah. That it is definitely meant to be a take on dub music, since it's credited as a King Nobody production. You fellow dub lovers will understand the pun. Still, I guess it's still easy to find for like dirt cheap. No one really, I guess not enough people care about these non-album EPs. when it's not dance music, disco, or I don't know. Oh yeah, I remember now. I think there's like kind of like a little bit of an abstract ambient section in the track with loops, tape loops. Yeah, obviously huge Chicago connection. Oh yeah, this is really beautiful.
That's one of the beauties about it, that it can take you anywhere. You let your mind roam.
I mean, for those of you who don't know,
It's again very much like it's a sort of voyage.
Doug Sharon,
I look upon it.
with his band Codeine, was probably one of the most influential band towards what would become post-rock. They came from like punk rock, kind of a little bit on the side of grunge maybe, but Doug was so much of a great drummer. Like, yeah, he really went places. And for those of you who remember Directions in Music, that was also quite an influential band around the same time, mid-90s, second half of the 90s.
Put him on the road, just to protect his face. Able to coach his skills, keep improvement on the way. No.
Such a great cover. This is Piano Magic, the fun of the century. An EP from probably around the same time, 95, 96. This predates the first album from Piano Magic. They had like 3 EPs, I believe, a single. This is the track called Industrial Cutie. The whole EP is fantastic. I might play some other snippets. This is the work of Glenn Johnson, who went on to get great critical success with his second LP when it became more pop. I believe this is coming from the Bristol scene, or at least it was fairly regarded there and associated. This almost has some kind of like Terry Riley quality, which would be more evident on this EP of them. But it's only 2 tracks, 2 side-long tracks, so for me, like it could have been there. But Piano Magic were kind of like a way more whimsical version of Stereolab. Way more elusive. Yeah, this is, I really still like this as much as I did back then. I mean, probably not as much, but this was so influential back then. You have to go to the rough trade shop to find these kind of records. The ideas behind this track, it's just imagine why would you do that to an indie rock crowd in the mid-90s? That was just perfect. Let me check quickly a couple of other tracks that are less synth motoric. But because Piano Magic always had this, they were basically investigating the whole spectrum of pastoral electronica. And this EP, in my opinion, is the most solid entry in the discography from beginning to end. You can hear the field recordings in the background here. Very heavy bass in the foreground, typical of like shoegaze, indie stuff. Lots of reverb on the voice. Kind of like a post-Duality column guitar there. Very delicate. This is really a good record. Another record that I've shown many times, which is one of my absolute favorite records ever. Pram EP that launched their career on Too Pure, one of the greatest labels of the 90s, one of the most influential, launching the careers of Stereolab, PG Harvey, Seafield, Mouse on Mars, so many. Pram were a very odd bird, since I guess you could say they were kind of at the crossroads of Robert Wyatt, dub, and like John Bender, maybe some kind of idiosavant post-industrial with an eye on the magical, on the broken magic. Still a feat in childhood. So yeah, I guess also the first Psychic TV album also is kind of close to this, and close to Piano Magic as well. This track I believe I've never played on my videos, but I mean the whole EP is just essential. It might be that it's starting to get a little bit elusive. It used to be super easy to find. of the dark period of Pram. After that, they would have an album or two that were still kind of in that vein, but maybe a little less gloomy and chaotic. With the third album of theirs, they would mesh this with their own take on the Exotica to fantastic results. Rosie with her her falsetto voice. This is a band from Birmingham, so the Birmingham underground scene is quite a beast of its own. I did a video about that recently, a few months back, I guess. But this was recorded by Justin Broderick from Napalm Death, Godflesh, as he's also from Birmingham, and apparently Rosie was babysitting for him. That's how the story goes. These tracks are pretty long, by the way. Lots of there's 4 tracks on this EP, but so much happening. It's almost like an album or a mini album. I miss a little bit these early days of Pram. As much as I love the rest of their discography. This is one of the few bands I almost love everything they did, apart from the latest album. I think they never really did anything like that consecutively. I know that there was lots of struggles into recording this. Maybe some mental health issues as well. This is not my favorite track of the EP, but I really love every single track of it, and I've already played some of the others, I believe. So there you go. Next, something quite much more normal. Next is a band that went on to produce arguably one of the best albums of the 90s, if not the best rock album of the 90s, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely in the top 3 rock records of the 90s. This is the second and it was only their second album. I'm talking about a band I didn't really like their first album. Here it is, The Breeders' Last Splash, which was released. I don't remember when, but there was quite some time between the first album and the second one. It doesn't say here, but I guess, yeah, well, it was between the first and the second album. I believe there was a gap of several years, in between which came this. This was released, I believe, in '93. This is the Safari EP from The Breeders. Kim Deal, Kelly Deal, Tanya Donnelly, Josephine Wiggs, Mike Hunt. Engineered by Guy Fixon. Guy Fixon was the engineer for Loveless of My Bloody Valentine. He also had his bands Moonshake and then Leica. Very interesting bands. But I guess he was instrumental in this wall of sound, wall of noise that you would find in on Loveless and on this. It took years for us to hear again from The Breeders. He came with this, Cannonball, dated the album by at least a year. We got this EP with 4 tracks, 2 which I absolutely adore, one that I really like, and one that I'm on the fence on, but I'm pretty sure you can still find this fairly easily, or fairly inexpensively. All the good tracks on this are You Love Me Now, So Sad About Us, there's nothing really complicated about this, but and lastly, for this little series, almost a cheat, since this came out in 2000. The first semi-normally distributed record from this band could have been on this list. one of the absolute best EPs of the 90s. The High Scores EP from Boards of Canada. This is the original pressing, one of the 500s from back then. Discovering this in the shop when it was released was like an eye-opener for me. And as much as I love this, I think they peaked with this EP. In a beautiful place out in the country, with lots of references to some difficult tracks of analog pastoral magic. It's kind of weird nostalgia of something you can't really pinpoint. When this was released, they had already achieved a huge success and status. But I guess this was the last kind of almost innocent, like, I mean, this was a big deal when this was released, especially in the UK. I remember there was lots of like merch around it, like postcards, stickers. But yeah, Boards of Canada are kind of some of the absolute best at timelessness in music. Even if you can definitely identify this beat as very 90s. But then again, it's so sparse. The 4 tracks on this are absolutely amazing. 3 are absolutely amazing, and 1 is really cool. But this is the 3rd track, which is the title track as well. Exactly the same as the as the Breeders one, Safari, which we were listening to. Anyhow, this is almost half an hour, so I hope this was interesting, enlightening, eye-opening on a few things. Not a big concept video, just 5 good records on the format that is usually bypassed by many of us. And most of these shouldn't be too difficult to find, but would be a great addition to any record collection that doesn't occult the 90s. So here it is. 5 EPs from the 90s. Thank you, VC. I hope everyone is good, and I'll see you later.